Hiring Mike McCarthy and bringing Aaron back would be the worst decision Pittsburgh could make.
The worst?
The worst.
You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, let's talk about the Steelers. Couple of quick things. Brian Flores signed an extension with the Minnesota Vikings to be the defensive coordinator, remain there as a defensive coordinator. However, there is still a out for a head coaching job. Steelers, Ravens, said to be interested. All right. So just because he signed the extension doesn't mean that he might not ultimately leave. Okay. Anyway, there's that. Zac Robinson, Baker Mayfield got his guy. And I know if you're a Falcons fan, you might be like, really? He's his guy? Yeah. Zac Robinson was directly with Sean McVay, and Zac Robinson was around when Baker Mayfield went to his Los Angeles Rams quarterback reboot experience he had that was 5 games. But he's got a close relationship with Zac Robinson, and Zac Robinson is now the offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers. I think that's a good hire. I think that's the kind of relationship that you look at and want when you're hiring an offensive coordinator, you pairing with your quarterback, right? That's why there is so much fire around Brian Daboll becoming the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. That looks real right now because of that Josh Allen connection. What's also getting real is Mike McCarthy and the Steelers. Okay, now they're still looking Nate Schillhouse, but he's with the Rams, and that creates all kinds of complications with finalizing interviews and this and that and the other, because Rams are still in this. By the way, he's a Browns finalist too. Browns got a real problem right now because Mike McDaniel dropped out. Mike McDaniel is like a quarter black, all right? You may be like, quarter black Garrett? No, not that quarter black. Literally like a quarter black person, okay? African-American, quarter African-American. Rooney Rule. Of course, the biggest joke in all of sports, the Rooney Rule. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm sorry, but if owners want to hire the guy that's mopping the floors at a peep show, it's his team. He ought to be able to do it. And if he only wants to interview that guy, he should be able to just interview that guy. I mean, it would be a disaster and you get destroyed by everybody, but it's their team and they ought to be able to run these teams the way they feel fit and hire whoever they want. They paid for the teams. Nonetheless, the Browns have a big issue because they're non-Rooney Rule compliant all of a sudden. Because their Mike McDaniel in-person interview, the second one, was going to finish off their Rooney Rule compliance. He dropped out. So they're going to have to bring in another African-American minority candidate to interview. And how you going to do that? Because it's going to be obvious. You're probably interviewing that guy just to check a box. Good chance you ain't bringing Brian Flores in unless you want to get added to a lawsuit. So they're going to have to find a guy to bring in. I got a couple of things with the Steelers. Adam Schefter talking about Mike McCarthy, and oh my God, Dan Orlovsky destroying the Steelers. He crushes the idea of bringing Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers back together. He doesn't hold back either. And we've got Ben Roethlisberger also co-signing Mike McCarthy. Now, I did a little research. Guys, the Dallas Cowboys in 2023 had the first rated offense in the NFL in points per game, 5th in yards per game. Now, in 2024, that dropped to 20th and 12th, respectively. However, the reason that dropped like that is because that's the year that Dak Prescott got hurt and only played in 8 games. So when McCarthy had Dak healthy in 2023, by the way, Dak finished second in the MVP voting that year. All right, so I got to tell you, that's why I don't agree with Dan Orlovsky here. This is not the same as Mike Tomlin. Mike McCarthy has turned himself in to a very competent offensive coach. All right, he spent that little time out of football between the Packers and the Cowboys updating his offense, and it showed. It showed when he got to the Dallas Cowboys. He included a lot more motion, emphasized CeeDee Lamb. There were things to like about McCarthy's offense. Okay, Adam Schefter shared the latest on Mike McCarthy and the Steelers on Get Up. He explained that McCarthy doesn't match their traditional archetype for the Pittsburgh head coach. He makes sense for their current needs. Quote, we've always seen the Steelers hire young defensive-minded coaches. Yesterday, they had an older offensive-minded head coach, Mike McCarthy from Pittsburgh, who would love nothing more than to go back and coach the Steelers. While he does not fit the profile of any recent head coach they've hired, he does qualify, and he does bring certain attributes that would help this organization. Quote, he is in play for the head coaching job. I'm not saying he's going to get it, but he's definitely a strong candidate. Now, Roethlisberger. Scroll down here. Now, he does bring up the idea of hiring a younger offensive-minded coach if you can bring in a veteran defensive coordinator like a Jim Schwartz or Vic Fangio. Well, Fangio's not leaving the Eagles. And yeah, you might be able to get Jim Schwartz. But if Jim Schwartz is going to stay defensive coordinator, there's rumors if he doesn't take the Browns coaching job, there's rumors the 49ers are going to go after Jim Schwartz hard because they just lost him with lost Robert Saleh. So Roethlisberger said, my next choice would be Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is an offensive veteran coach with Pittsburgh ties. He understands the Steelers' way, understands what it means to be a Steeler, the Rooney family, and how it works. A lot of respect for him. He could bring in a younger coordinator or whatever to help. The potential downside for that is how long would he keep coaching for? I don't know. The positive side of coming in here would be the potential of Aaron Rodgers coming back. They have a relationship together. I assume it's good enough. They won the Super Bowl together. You could bring in his offense. Aaron Rodgers would know the offense and feel super comfortable in his offense. He knows. So there's that. And then there's the idea of actually doing it, and Dan Orlovsky.
Hiring Mike McCarthy and bringing Aaron back would be the worst decision Pittsburgh could make.
The worst?
The worst.
The worst.
And that's not an indictment on each of them or either of them individually. Mike McCarthy's a really good coach. Obviously, Aaron, one of the all-time greats. What are we doing, Pittsburgh? To hire Mike McCarthy and bring Aaron back is going to place you quite literally in the same position you're in right now in January of 2027. I said this when they made the moves last year. They're in the worst possible place. You just reiterated that, Shefty, because they're going to be good enough to win 9 or 10 games, and they're not going to be bad enough to finally get a quarterback. That would be a disastrous thing to do for your future.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. And I'm going to keep it real. Let's just call it last 7 years, Mike McCarthy's been a better coach than Mike Tomlin. There it is. It's out in the open. He's been a better coach. And he's an offensive coach. And he's not been going 9-8. He won 12 games 3 consecutive times with the Dallas Cowboys. That's not 9-8, and that's not 10-7. That was the big gripe about Tomlin. Well, what about playoffs? He's also won a playoff game in there. Mike Tomlin couldn't do that. He's also a different voice. I think it's a big deal to simply go from defensive coach to offensive coach. So this is what everybody worshiping these young, so many of these young candidates. Number one, I mean, look, Brian Callahan just crashed and burned. Jonathan Gannon just crashed and burned. These young guys crashed. Cliff Kingsbury. Remember when he was here comes Cliff Kingsbury. He's going to be the guy. Davis Webb. What, 4 years? Psh, out the door. So that doesn't work out either all the time. And it's because, here's another good example. You get a guy in there, he has to try to establish a culture. There's a lot of things that go along with head coaching that's not even directly football related. And these young guys get in there and they find out, oh shit, even some of these older guys get in there and find out, oh shit, this isn't about my side of the ball anymore. This is about shit outside of the football offices. Organizational, structural, blah, 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 blah. And these guys crash and burn. You know, that's why I was so critical of the Bills having fired Sean McDermott. Well, how do you know the next guy is going to be able to do the other stuff that Sean McDermott's already shown he's able to do? Same thing with John Harbaugh. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. I thought it was time for Mike Tomlin to separate. Frankly, I understand that from his perspective and from the Steelers' perspective. But the problem is so many people are looking at these young hires and they're shitting on a good coach like Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's as good a coach as Sean Payton. Stop it. He is. Go look at the records. He is. They're the same guy. He's the same guy as John Harbaugh. You know? And for some reason, everybody wants the unknown guy. And for the life of me, I don't get it. I really don't. Mike McDaniel in Miami, perfect example. It did not work out. He did not make it. Josh McDaniels, twice. I am super cautious of these flavor of the month guys. I think Grant Udinski, very intriguing. I can understand it. I can understand taking a hard look at it if I'm the Browns. But not a chance in hell I'm hiring that dude over Sean McDermott or Mike McCarthy. As long as those two guys are on the market, I'm chasing them first. It's crazy to me. It drives me insane. Well, how you going to do next? Sean McVay. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan are literally outliers in all of this. Liam Cohen, too. Look at Mike Vrabel, which is another guy you can throw into the McDermott, McCarthy, Harbaugh, Payton. And it's because they come in and they just already know how to do certain parts of the job. And they don't have to stress over that part. They can come in and just get to work on the football stuff. They already got systems for everything else. I'm just pointing that out. You know, a lot of people will disagree with that, and I don't care. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.